Coming up on Tech News Today, the U.S. is conducting cyberwar, but we're too busy eating cupcakes and having a good time talking about smelling phones. Find out why next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, June 1st, 2010, 2011, 2012. It's our 2-year anniversary. Tech News Today is brought to you by Pond5, the world's stock media marketplace. If you're a media maker who needs stock video clips, photos, illustrations, music tracks, or sound effects, check out Pond5 for instant downloads at the best prices anywhere. Check out Pond5 at pond5.com. And for 25% off this month, use code TWIT25. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Jason Howell.
What's the matter, Jason?
Sorry, I just realized I turned up the music right as you were coming back. I was like, no, I'm going to not let you
so excited because it's our second anniversary.
It's great.
We have been privileged to do Tech News Today for 2 years now. June 1st, 2010 was the first show. Feels still new to me, honestly, because we keep changing things. But this crew's been together now for a year. Over a year.
Yeah, yesterday was my 2-year California anniversary.
Congratulations.
I California'd the entire day. As you should.
I have no response to that.
That could be all sorts of things. But I guess I California'd the entire day yesterday as well.
That's good.
So
as a
here we
resident,
are.
you should.
I'm mildly Illinois part of the day, but mostly California.
Actually, I was trying to Virginia up in California. It wasn't working.
I may have Oregoned for like 40 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
It happens.
You look like you might have Oregon.
When I get tired.
So it's only been 2 years. It feels like 15 with this kind of conversation.
Well, this conversation added another couple of years.
Yeah, that felt like an eternity there.
Good point.
Let's kick some tech news.
This is Tech News Today, the show where we kick around the tech news today, try to make some sense of it all. Got a rather weighty foreign policy story to start off with. A report in the New York Times today called Obama Orders Sped Up Wave of Cyber Attacks Against Iran by David Sanger is actually an excerpt from his upcoming book and confirms that the United States and Israel developed Stuxnet. If you remember, Stuxnet was the virus that targeted Iranian nuclear centrifuge equipment at the Natanz facility.
Shut it down, too.
Yeah, they were able to break equipment and set back Iranian nuclear development. It was widely presumed to be a state actor, widely presumed to be the United States and Israel, and in fact, it was. It was a program called Olympic Games, first authorized by President George W. Bush. They got to the point where they had used some beacon code to map out network connections in Iran within the Natanz plant, but the Natanz area with the centrifuges was not networked. So, Darren, how do you get in?
Well, I mean, it's like Battlestar Galactica, right? They didn't network the computers there for a reason because the Cylons were just going to take that thing down. But no, I mean, it's one of the things that we've constantly said. In fact, in 2006, when this was going down, we were developing on Hack5 some physical security tools that kind of do the same thing. And that is, nobody thinks like, oh, a thumb drive, how evil could that be? Well, it turns out that's when it's not on the network, you're going to have to get physical access. And through double agents or spies. Yeah, you get some people on the inside to plug in some USB keys, and then Bob's your uncle. At the time in 2006, we were using this technology called what we called the USB Switchblade. It took advantage of an issue in Windows XP, which would allow it to run an autorun.inf file off of a USB drive. It was specially crafted hardware that made it look like a CD-ROM partition. It's one of those things where, like, for convenience, your grandmother plugs in the HP printer driver disk and it just pops up with some stuff. And so auto runs that code. And so, we were able to do the same thing with special thumb drives. Of course, now that's not the case. Microsoft's wised up to that. Now you got to use something like one of these guys, a USB rubber ducky or something, a HID-based attack to spoof a keyboard. Regardless, physical security is your best bet when it comes to that. And it sounds like in 2006, their beacon code was able to nmap or passively identify the network based on the traffic that was going through it, so that they could come up with a plan for how to actually go ahead and attack those PLCs, those those SCADA machines and convince them to basically destroy themselves. They were able to destroy it. This article reveals that up to like 1,000 of the 5,000 centrifuges they had at this laboratory were destroyed because of this, to the point where, and what I find, most sexy about the way that the Stuxnet worm worked was that it not only told the SCADA machine to just basically tell the centrifuge to spin in a way that would destroy it, but also to report back everything was A-OK, to the point where, in Iran, they were sending people down into the centrifuges with walkie-talkies, reporting back because they didn't trust their own equipment.
Yeah. Now, that's how they got it in, was on the USB sticks. And in fact, one of the architects of the Olympic Games program told the author David Sanger, quote, "It turns out there's always an idiot around who doesn't think much about the thumb drive in their hand." So let this be a lesson. Always think about the thumb drive in your hand.
I mean, if I hand this to
it's
you,
history.
You're gonna plug that in. It's cute.
There was somebody who had a Wi-Fi network that was password protected, and I asked for the password, and they gave me a USB drive because they're like, it's a very long password. I put it on a text file in this USB key, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to stick that in the port of my laptop.
That's awesome.
Can you put it in your computer, and then I'll read it off your screen?
Nice.
Yeah, because that's how this kind of stuff happens. The work of the program did destroy the centrifuges, as you mentioned, but it also got out. They did not intend it to leave Natanz. They expected that it would not spread anywhere else but within the Natanz facility.
Yeah, and that's a thing where if they had first mapped out the network in 2006, they could have written into the code like, hey, they're on a 10.16. whatever network, only infect stuff there. But the fact that it was able to, go from, USB to somebody's laptop, next thing you know, they're at another facility, it's out onto the internet, it sounds like that could have been mitigated. And I don't know, I don't want to play conspiracy theorist there, but this was a project that, we, our boys as well as the Israelis came up with, and who knows? I mean,
David Sanger quotes Joe Biden speculating that Israel had modified the code without telling the United States. We don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, and there were several variations of this Stuxnet worm. I mean, and calling it a worm, like it's unprecedented worm. The thing is huge compared to, it's like 50 times bigger than your average worm, and takes advantage of things that, for example, it used 4 zero-day vulnerabilities in Windows. Those are huge. On the black market, those go for a lot of money. It also took advantage of zero-day vulnerabilities in SCADA gear. It took advantage of, it had actually signed digital certificates from Taiwanese-based manufacturers like Realtek. So, a lot of muscle is involved in putting something like that together.
Christopher Mims at MIT's Technology Review pointed out that once Stuxnet got out, hackers began to learn a lot more about industrial control, thus causing the United States to have to start warning that SCADA systems, those industrial control systems in the United States, are sorely unprotected. And it's their own fault.
That has been the topic of great discussion for the last 2 years at all of the hacker conferences. There's always a good talk about, here's the next way you can take down this SCADA box and that SCADA box, because most of the time these very specialized scientific equipment were made in such a way that, you don't really presume a bunch of security, because you don't presume that, one, they're going to be online. And even if they're not, though, if they're on the network and you can get physical access, a lot of times these things have like manufacturer set hard-coded passwords, because it was like one of those naivetes of security where like, well, who's going to do something with the SCADA box that controls the centrifuge? You know?
He who controls the centrifuge.
And now it's like built into, your basic hacking frameworks.
But
there's payloads right there for you to use.
The positive upshot is we will, as a result of this, have more secure industrial systems. One hopes.
That's the hope.
Soon. All right, let's look at the final decision for a nano SIM. The SIM card is going to get smaller. The ETSI folks, not the Kraft folks, but the European Telecommunications Standards Institute have approved a design for a nano SIM. You may hear it referred to as 4FF. Which is the fourth version of the SIM, a smaller version. Ars Technica and Macworld both report that the committee member from ETSI called Gieske and Devrian, companies have committee memberships in this, say that Apple's design won. If you don't remember, Apple, RIM, Motorola, and Nokia were all having a dispute over this. The design that is approved, and we think it's Apple's, is 40% smaller than a micro SIM. 12.3 millimeters by 8.8 millimeters and 0.67 millimeters thin. And backwards compatible with micro SIM slots. So if you have a micro SIM slot and you get one of these new nano SIMs, you can put it in a tray and it would still work. But it doesn't have the notch. The notch was going to allow you to have slots without trays. So you could just push it in and then push it again for it to pop out.
Right.
That's less convenient. But Apple really wanted the tray design, and so that's what's been approved. Apparently, though, RIM, Motorola, and Nokia are okay with this because Apple compromised on a lot of other aspects of the design that they were fighting over.
Beatmaster brings up the best question, which is, did the consumer win?
I think the consumer's going to win either way. I don't know how much I'm going to miss the ability to push the SIM card in, and the fact that it's always going to be a tray. I guess I'd rather have both options, frankly, but
the real thing is that
you'd rather have both options on a single device?
Not on a single device, but
I
mean, I would like them to be able to use it either way.
So you want something that has both a notch and can go in a tray?
Yeah. Why can't the notch go in a tray?
Well, because that's going to cost, as Apple pointed out, that's going to cost more in manufacturing because somebody's got to sit there and cut the notch. And you don't want to be a notch cutter.
Robots can do that.
As exciting as it is to talk about the size of a SIM card, the real thing is this means that there's more space for other stuff. I mean, that's really this is one of the reasons why Apple wanted to go with, when they introduced, they were like, oh, micro SIM is out. We're going to put that in the iPhone. And people were like, oh, great, Apple's screwing up the SIM cards. Like, no, these are getting smaller for a reason because we want a lot more technology in our phones. We want LTE. We want bigger batteries. We want better screens. And if this part keeps getting smaller and smaller, this is really helpful for basically every other phone that'll come out that uses this.
It's funny that you mentioned Apple, proponent of, of course everybody wants to make things smaller, but Apple being the one that's got the huge dock connector, whereas, the rest of the world uses micro USB.
Well, that's why everyone keeps spreading rumors that Apple's going to change the proprietary system. But forget the dock connector, forget picking on Apple for that. The fact of the matter is, the space you're saving is not just the size of the SIM card. The space you're saving is all the apparatus around it as well. So the nano SIM will take up less space overall, which is what you're pointing out, Iyaz. We're going to get thinner devices. We're going to get more battery. We're going to get more ability to pack in stuff.
I wonder if there's going to be a special thing where you can cut your old SIM so it'll fit in your new phone.
Cut it? Just right down the middle?
That was the case with the
diagonal,
Mini.
like a sandwich?
Yeah, you'd get some scissors out and you just
you can cut the big SIMs to fit into the micro SIM.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Oh yeah.
And then isn't there a
Maybe
caddy?
I will.
There's also a caddy to make it work in the old ones. If you've got a Mini and you want to put it in a Maxi or whatever.
We have a caddy because the micro SIM from the iPhone is what Eileen needed to put in her Samsung Galaxy S2. And so we needed a tray.
And the cutting of the SIM cards, I know a bunch of people wanted to put in old SIM cards in their iPhones. And so there was a bunch of tutorials showing you how to cut it to fit it perfectly.
Huh.
Yeah,
well,
cool stuff.
Looky at that.
Google has also got some cool stuff coming for Google Maps. In fact, timed to maybe, I don't know, compete with Apple on something.
Steal some thunder here. On June 6th at 9:30, there will be an event. The invite that Google sent out it says the next dimension of Google Maps, and it's got a nicely rendered image of California with that big Google pin you've seen before rising out of it. The invitation also notes that Google's going to offer a behind-the-scenes look at Google Maps and share a vision, whatever that means. Read, write, web, really easy to say. Also poked around a bit, and as far as they know, it's about 3D, and that's what's going to be at this event. But this is all speculation at this point. Is 3D coming to Maps? Is it coming to the apps? Is it coming to Android? Where is this going? And obviously, this has people remembering that, hey, Apple has WWDC coming up, where people are expecting them to drop Google's Maps and move to their own 3D-based maps.
Or at least show us some awesome tutorial of how their C3 technology is going to, blow everybody away.
That's on the 11th, so Google's got to be on the 6th and say, hey, we got something.
This sounds a lot like, hey, it's almost WWDC, and Google wants to scoop Apple with something really cool.
Well, Google would know that Apple is dropping Maps from the iOS because they wouldn't have renewed the deal. But they would probably be under an NDA not to announce it. So is this as close as they can get to say, okay, we're not breaking the NDA, but we're going to scoop your event because we know when it's coming, and we're going to announce something that just makes your map look like crap.
I like it.
At least that's the idea.
Obviously, maps having the capability to look really good in 3D means that all the companies are going to want to at least offer this as an option. I'm really interested to see how much it actually gets used in practice. I mean, 3D movies and television, for example, I don't need it. It's fine. I get it that it's kind of cool, but I don't need it. But that's not real life. Maps I use to get where I'm going and to get an idea of what something's going to look like before I get there, or just, if I'm fantasizing about going.
I got 2 words for you, Sarah.
What?
MapQuest. I'm so sorry, but
I think
we
that's
were all...
one word in a cap.
Yeah,
but
okay, okay, fine.
Q was capitalized.
Fine. Anyway, we were using that before Google Maps, and since then, there's been plenty of innovation. So if anything, like if they're going 3D, if they're scraping the bottom of the barrel of the feature set, that's fine. That's fine, because as long as the user experience gets more reliable and cleaner and everything, that's what really matters, and we all benefit at the end of that.
But what does MapQuest have to do with this?
That was crap, and we were all using it because there was no alternative.
Yeah, I understand that, but the experience has gotten better without going 3D.
Are you actually thinking that you have to look at it with special glasses, or there'll be like a lenticular kind of 3D phone? I'm just thinking there'll be 3D rendered.
Actual 3D. I'm talking about the idea of seeing 3D imaging.
Why would you need to pull out a map and put on your 3D glasses for the usefulness of it? Why is 3D making the map experience?
There's no 3D glasses involved. Now we've gone way off track.
Different kind of 3D.
The question here, and maybe this will bring us back down to earth a little bit.
Please.
The question for me is, will it load faster? Will it give me more accurate directions? And can I still use Street View-like functionality to see what the area looks like and scope out some landmarks? Yeah. And when I do a search, will relevant things, like when I search for restaurants, will all the restaurants show up in that area? That's what I want out of maps. If Apple does that and it does it better, great. If Google does improve on what they already do, great. Because my biggest complaints are that search doesn't always work the way I want, and the maps load really slow on the iPhone. So I'm looking at this going, you guys keep fighting, because what it means is we're going to get better products from both of you.
Now, doesn't Google have some 3D renderings on Google Earth? On Google Earth,
actually, it's built into Google Maps, and when you zoom in, you just kind of tilt a little bit, and then you can pan around and be like, oh, hey, I'm looking for the building that looks like that, and it's there's the harbor.
Yeah,
if they can apply,
looks like a. Go ahead.
If they can apply the Street View
child's recreation.
If Google can apply the actual skins of Street View onto these 3D renderings, it'd be kind of useful for me, because otherwise, when I go into Street View and I see this flat image and I want to be able to look around the corner, it's always skewed.
But that's what C3 does. That's what Apple's
now looking to do.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't surprise me if Google's doing the same.
Yeah, I imagine that Google's going to think they're scooping Apple a little bit, and then Apple's is going to look very similar to Google, and then the reality distortion field kicks
and then
in.
The Yelp map is going to blow us all away. That's the one I use the most.
With stereoscopic 3D.
And then that's going to inspire you to want to make a post-apocalyptic movie about radioactive monkeys who lead you to safety. And you'll need Pond 5, our sponsor for that. Pond 5 is the place for high-quality creative media. You can find monkeys, you can find explosions, you can find Ferris wheels. Anything you need for any kind of creative experiment is available at Pond 5.
They won't actually give you the monkeys, just video.
No, it's just videos
imagery.
of the monkeys. That's a very good point.
You don't actually want the monkey.
No, this is much better.
This is preferable.
This is preferable and much more cost-effective to get the footage, get the royalty, get the rights to use it in your creative products, and not have to deal with monkeys scratching your face.
Right. I mean, you've got to rent camera gear, you got to do lighting, you got to get an animal handler and a license for a monkey. This is so much better.
Eternal Sword in the chat room says, I was bitten by a monkey. You will never, I don't want to speak on Pond 5's behalf, but I can almost guarantee you will never get bitten by a monkey if you use their service. But you will get high-quality photos, vector illustrations, music tracks, sound effects, motion graphics, templates, and other creative assets downloaded instantly for legal use in virtually any media production. And if you're like Dan Luters, who made the theme song to our show, or you're somebody who goes out and shoots a lot of video, you can actually sell your work on Pond 5 and make money back.
So if you do have a monkey farm, you could videotape them and make money.
Pay for your medical bills from all of the monkey scratches by selling your video on Pond 5. And for artists, Pond 5 is a dynamic marketplace where you get top industry-leading royalties. So please, check it out. Media makers, media consumers, if you're looking for the right video, images, or sound, go to pond5.com. That's P-O-N-D, the number 5.com. And there's a special offer for our audience members, 25% off your purchase when you use the code TWIT25. That's pond5.com. Use the code TWIT25. We thank Pond5 for their support of Tech News Today. Back to the discussion where Microsoft says we will not track you. In fact, we're not even going to ask. We're just not going to track you anymore when IE10 comes out in Windows 8. The Do Not Track feature will be implemented in IE10 already on. You will have to opt in to being tracked if you use IE10. This is different than IE9. It's also different than Firefox and Chrome, which all implement Do Not Track, but you have to turn it on yourself. You have to opt out of being tracked. Microsoft said in a blog post from Dean Hakamovich, this decision reflects our commitment to providing Windows customers an experience that is private by default in an era when so much user data is collected online.
Hasn't Microsoft learned anything from Facebook? People hate it when you automatically opt them into opting out and then make them opt into the tracking. It's like, come on, guys.
Just track me. Don't make me beg.
Track me already. Well, I tell you who's upset about this. The Association of National Advertisers. 450 companies together strongly opposing Microsoft's plan. And don't forget, Microsoft is in the advertising business.
Yeah, but Microsoft doesn't even use Do Not Track on their own website.
Well, okay, yeah, that is true.
I mean,
you jumped right to the end. So
if the user has to opt in or out of being tracked or not being tracked, and so does the website have to opt into either using or not using that code, then I'm sorry, put a fork in it. You know, with Microsoft doing default not tracking, I think it's just, the end of this.
There you go. Let's move on to the new tablets coming at Computex next week.
Yeah, so Computex is happening in Taipei, Taiwan, next week, June 5th through 9th. And people familiar with knowledge of stuff are already talking. Acer, Toshiba, and Asus are all releasing Windows 8 tablets, say these people familiar with the matters. Toshiba is going to show a tablet and a notebook-type device, reportedly. Asus Tech is going to show tablets with detachable keyboards, similar to what we know already as the Transformer models. And there's a lot of talk about what kind of chips are going to be in all of these tablets. ARM-based chips, obviously, in Windows 8 tablets. Big change from Intel and AMD being exclusive providers of chips for Windows machines. Intel still has 80%
will this be our first look at the ARM-based tablets? I think so.
Yeah, as far as people being able to get their hands on them.
Yeah. First real shipping products, yeah.
And in fact, Microsoft VP Steven Guggenheimer is going to show off an Asus Tech device in a presentation at Computex, which is on June 6th. Why they chose the Asus Tech Windows 8 tablet, we don't necessarily know yet. So the deal is Asus Tech is going to show off some tablets built on NVIDIA Tegra chips. Then they're going to have another, basically it's going to be the same tablet reportedly, one with a Tegra chip, one with an Intel chip for comparison, probably in order to say, look how fast the Tegra chip is in comparison, or at least as fast. Acer tablet is built around an Intel chip. Toshiba is using an ARM chip from Texas Instruments. And Qualcomm is going to demonstrate a test device running Windows 8 based on its Snapdragon processor. So a lot of Windows 8 tablets. Hard to say who's going to rise as the next iPad competitor. I know they all want it.
Of Windows 8. Actually, a good point from the chat room. Is it Windows RT tablets?
Technically, it would be Windows 8.
Because Windows 8 on ARM is not Windows 8. It's Windows RT.
You'll have Windows 8 on tablets that have Intel chips in them. On the ARM-based ones, you'll have Windows RT.
It's not Windows 8 RT. It's just
Windows
RT. Okay.
It's not technically 8.
So some Windows 8, some Windows RT.
So I guess the simple thing is if it's got tiles, it's going to be there. It's going to be on tablets. You're going to see that. So I'm kind of curious to see which chips will certain companies get behind. Are they is Asus going to offer both versions? Are they going to have their own Intel version and they're going to have the AMD-based version? The ARM-based version. If they have both, how are they going to explain that these devices that look really similar have different functionality? Mm-hmm. That to me I'm very curious. Because this is going to be a very educated, event. People know what's going on. They know what the limitations are. I'm just very curious about how are they going to explain that tablet that looks just like that one over there does more than that one over there.
Android tablets have already had this issue. Well, some people have an issue with it, and some people like the fact that this particular Android tablet is really unique for these reasons and does the stuff really well. It's just a fragmented market. Between iOS and Android, they have over 90% of the tablet market. So Windows 8, Windows RT, all of them together have a really big opportunity to get in there. According to some data from Evercore Group, tablet market supposed to grow 70% per year on average over the next 3 years. So market's going to get a lot bigger. There's a lot of room for Windows RT tablets to do really well.
Yeah, one of the benefits of Windows RT is because it's running on ARM, you can have much lower cost components compared to the Intel chips. If you're going to run on Intel running on AMD, those things are usually more expensive than compared to these ARM, because these ARM-based processors, because there's so many competitors out there. Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, Samsung, everybody makes one of these chips because that's a licensable technology.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I would like to get my hands on these, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Taiwan at Computex, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the Metro interface works on the tablet, because my frustrations that we talked about yesterday regarding the Metro interface, I feel like are because when Microsoft's trying to make a really good interface for the tablet and use it in both cases. So I want to see if that pays off. If I use it as a tablet, like I especially want to try those convertibles to say like, okay, if I get used to this on a laptop, then when I turn it into a tablet, is it worth it? I'm like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah, when you just look at those tiles on a laptop, there's something strange about it. They're such big targets. It's strange for you to use a cursor. You want to just tap that actual tile. So those convertibles, the old Windows 7 had convertibles, and that was kind of strange. But this one looks like it's built right for it. So very curious as well.
All right, let's finish up with the browser wars.
Dun, 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 dun,
Stat Counter and Net Applications both have their stats out today. They both say wildly different things. Stat Counter says that Chrome is now the most popular browser. If you recall, thank you. Yeah.
It's on fire even.
StatCounter had ranked Chrome the most popular browser for 1 day in March, and then for 1 week last month. Now they say Chrome was the most popular in May, passing Internet Explorer by taking 32.43% of the market. IE had 32.12, Firefox 25.55, Safari 7.09, and Opera 1.77. There, Opera fans. I mentioned it.
Well, until Facebook buys them, of course.
Yeah, and then
they'll be rocketed to the top.
Or then Chrome will take over and Firefox will take Opera's old position.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, I won't. No, because I've been there.
Maybe that'll
Phoenix,
help Firefox.
Firebird,
Conqueror,
Thunderbird.
I always mention Conqueror. I don't know.
Yeah.
Net Applications, however, has a different story to tell. Internet Explorer 54.05%, with Firefox ahead of Chrome. Firefox 19.7%. And Chrome 19.6. That's much different. 54-19-19 versus 32-25 or 32-32-25. Net Applications uses unique users, whereas Stat Counter uses page views. There are arguments to be made.
So what
for
are
the
they
validity
saying,
of
though,
both.
is that people using Chrome are more active on the web than people using Internet Explorer. There may be more IE users, but they're not using the web nearly as much as the Chrome users.
That could be, yeah. That could be one interpretation of it. I'm not sure about all the methodology. There may be issues with that. I'm not just in case there's someone out there yelling at us right now. But it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Net Application spokesman Vince Vizicaro. Sorry, Vince. Told PC Magazine
I've had a lot of weird last names.
Country level weighting is likely the biggest factor, adding that IE has a very strong market share in the United States and China, which carry the largest bases of Internet users. Now, both companies do country weighting, but they do weight it differently. Chrome doesn't really care. They're like, look, we're happy either way. Sundar Pichai at the All Things D conference said that Chrome grew 300% last year with hundreds of millions of active users. That's all they care about. They don't even care about being first. We're growing, lots of active users, that's what we want.
Well, it's also easy not to care when you're on the up and up. I think they'd care a lot more if it was, Chrome falling.
And they're also seriously making IE better. I mean, just in the way that, remember when Firefox was like taking off and everybody was like, yeah, go Firefox, right? And then, IE was still in 6 for years and years, and then Microsoft's like, oh, wait, what? The browser wars aren't over?
Competition?
You can't win the browser wars and then stay here? And so, Chrome is doing that now because it's Google, and I think that's more of a threat to them than the open source, Mozilla Foundation.
IE10 is great. I used it all through the show yesterday. I didn't mention this at the end of the show. I used Windows 8 release preview through the entire show, had no issues. It was fantastic. It worked fine. Once I actually got to the things that I needed to use, which is what I was complaining about yesterday, it worked seamlessly. And I was impressed by IE10. It's got great tab management. It's solid. Microsoft has gotten the message like, oh, we do have to continue to improve and make a better browser. So it's definitely a worthwhile option.
And speaking of continuing, I think with this study, we're continuing to see that even, a decade later, coming up with browser stats, very difficult and subjective.
Of course, there's people in the chat room already. Well, no issues isn't supposed to be a feature. One episode doesn't make a test. You're all absolutely right. I'm just passing along
first impressions
what I experienced.
Are also important.
Absolutely.
They're not everything.
You can sometimes judge a book by its cover, and you can sometimes start the news fuse.
It's been a while.
No, I think Chad played that while you were gone.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I'm
he
sorry.
Scooped me on that one?
He did. He scooped you. Facebook's changes to its statement of rights and responsibilities and its data use policy are up for a vote. Oh, you didn't see that one coming, did you? There's a 1-week period for voting thanks to the efforts of Max Schrems, the founder of Europe versus Facebook. The voting period starts today. If more than 30% of all active users vote, then Facebook will go with the will of the voters. So there's your quorum. You have to get 30% of the people to vote.
Good luck.
If less than 30% vote, Facebook will consider the vote advisory, which means they'll probably ignore it. Voting ends June 8th at 9 a.m.
What do you think the odds are? 30%? It's tough. It's hard to get people out there to vote.
It's hard out there for a voter.
Yeah. Responding to Google's European complaint that Nokia and Microsoft were using proxy companies to damage Android, Nokia responded by saying that the complaint was wrong and frivolous. Microsoft called it a desperate tactic. Microsoft also took a shot at Google for not responding to complaints by regulators over use of patents.
Examiner.com reports that Microsoft will unveil something called Xbox Smart Glass to select people at E3. The Microsoft confidential presentation says Smart Glass will let users control their 360 remotely and will be cross-platform with support for Windows, Windows Phone, Android, and iOS. It's supposed to run on everything. A demo will be shown at E3, but no live video will be featured. Engadget describes it as similar to AirPlay.
Such a smart glass.
Yes, it's a smart glass.
Listen up, geeks. You're going to love this. AT&T CEO says that within 2 years, we'll likely get this data-only cell phone plans. Not that we don't have them already for tablets. Now, that wouldn't mean the death of voice calls and text messages and minutes. It would just all come out of your gigabytes per month.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I've got a friend that already does this. He uses a $25 a month tablet SIM, puts it in a phone. Maybe he had to do a little thing with the IMEI or something. I don't know. But he uses, voice over IP for your voice and uses Google Voice for text messaging.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just bits, people.
If we had rational data plans, I'd be all for this.
Yeah, no joke.
So that's got to come.
I carry around 3 SIMs for that reason.
Speaking of carriers, Cricket just landed a prepaid iPhone the other day, but according to Techno Buffalo, Sprint subsidiary Boost Mobile may be joining in the fray, selling prepaid iPhones. The company could be selling the iPhone 4 and the 4S as early as September.
The Guardian's reporting that the European Commission has given Google until July 2nd to offer changes to its search results, or else there could be litigation and maybe a big fine ahead. The EC is currently looking into Google's dominance in the search market and whether it stifles competition by favoring its own properties.
TechCrunch reports that Facebook will be integrated into iOS 6, which should make it a lot easier for other apps to use Facebook Connect without having to switch apps. However, don't expect Facebook to be baked into the next version of OS 10. That's not happening.
Facebook wasn't functioning properly for a few hours yesterday. So what caused the glitch? Well, Facebook isn't giving any details, but a spokesperson said that the problem may have been caused by a denial of service attack. A denial of service attack.
Spokesperson said that it wasn't caused by that.
Oh, right. Yes, that's what I meant
Maybe
to
it was
say.
just the stock price.
So if you hear people taking credit for a DOS attack, not true.
Right.
According to Facebook, anyway.
We don't really know.
The dispute over whether Samsung copied iPhone's design came before the International Trade Commission today, and we also heard from Cheech and Chong in the same courtroom. U.S. International Trade Commission Judge Thomas Pender said he would apply the Cheech and Chong test to the case, referring to the comedy duo's routine about dog feces. That, according to Bloomberg. I know about the routine, but the fact that he used that word is according to Bloomberg. The account says that the judge said, does it look like it, feel like it, smell like it? So I guess he's going to smell the phones? And if they smell the same, rules in favor of Apple? I don't know how that all plays out.
They didn't teach us about
Pick up
sniffing
the
phones
phones
in
with a
law
bag.
school, but I'm sure there's some kind of great instruction by the...
Let us flee to the randomizer.
Thank you.
Quick!
Randomizer.
Okay, so Iyaz found this while we were at lunch today on Ars Technica, and it cracked us all up. Apparently, if you buy War and Peace
The novel.
The novel.
Not the concepts.
It's not actually viable.
You not
or the
just
world would
pay
be a
for
nicer
arms
place.
and then also try to pay for negotiations at the
I
same
don't know.
time.
We could all pool our money.
No, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. On the Nook, when you read it, the word kindled will be replaced by the word nooked.
Which is an actual verb that appears in the book. War and
Kindled
Peace.
is an actual verb.
Yes.
Nooked is not an actual
The
verb.
thing is, it's not like Nooked.
No.
It's actually Nookd.
Well, because
So
they're searching for the word Kindle.
It's a
and
find
just
and replace.
replacing
I
it.
understand.
Sarah, are you trying to say that it is a simple matter of find and replace? I mean, I think that, if anything, they're just doing product placement. And I think this is the way of the future. I mean, we're going to see, like, George Orwell books and other books where it's just like, a little something extra. Maybe the
I'd
author
like to
didn't
know more
intend
about
it,
what
but-
you're holding up to your head, Darren.
Oh, you mean the new Wi-Fi Pineapple Mark IV? Oh, it's my favorite. But let's move on.
It's a public domain book, by the way, too.
Oh, so I guess you could change it.
So they
You know,
improved it.
what's really so wrong with saying that something got nooked in War and Peace?
It was as if a light
The
had
classic Tolstoy.
been. I'm reading it right now. It was as if a light had been nooked in a carved and painted lantern, and the intricate, skillful, artistic work on its strides. I think we're losing meaning a little.
Now, before you declare war on Barnes & Noble, there was a blog commenter, and apparently Jonathan Zittrain has also posted a blog post suspecting that the publisher had created a version of this book, which is public domain, as I mentioned, and used the word Kindle somewhere in the introduction. Like, oh, our Kindle version of this book is copyright, side of the blah, 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 blah. Did a quick find and replace to change that to Nook and didn't realize they'd actually changed every other incident.
It's a pretty random occurrence.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem like something that
This
someone
is
was
why
like, hey,
you don't
hey,
click
hey.
replace all. You just click next.
Yeah, next, exactly. Preview every change.
Exactly. So,
As somebody that's done enough source code to know that that's what you do.
the best part is the company that published this is called Superior Formatting Publishing.
It's superior to something.
It must be superior to the Cheech and Chong test.
Does it smell like a War and Peace?
These phones smell similar.
Check the calendar.
The latest version of Bing is available to everybody in the US today and makes a lot more use of social functionality, because that's kind of a big thing these days. Best Buy Connect is no longer accepting new activations. The service is going to end today. Kind of it did end today. Apple is sending Mobile Me users a 30-day warning. You got to transfer your data to iCloud. You got 30 days, everybody. Top jailbreaker Pod2G is going to be speaking and running a workshop at JailbreakCon September 29th in San Francisco. And finally, Tuesday is the last chance to see the transit of Venus. What is that? It only happens 4 times every 243 years. And if you want to see it, next Tuesday is your last chance, unless you're really, really young or you plan to live a really, really long time, because the next transit will be in 2117.
Right before, in the United States anyway, right before sundown on Tuesday, you'll be able to see it. And I was listening to the Economist
And you
podcast
didn't realize
today.
that Venus has little legs.
It doesn't have legs.
It just,
no.
that would be cool.
But scientists
across the
will
sky.
use this to help figure out how to detect exoplanets in other galaxies. Because,
So cool.
Because they know the composition of Venus because it's close, so they can watch and see if the signs when it transits in front of the star in our solar system, what the markers are for that, and then use that to find other planets.
Cool stuff.
I like finding planets.
Well, now I just want to see if I can live to 2117 just to see it twice.
Singularity's near. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Andrew wrote in and said, hey guys, just thought I'd remind you that in episode 408, Tom predicted that Windows Phone will have 17% market share by June 1st, 2012.
Way to go, Tom.
Today's June 1st, 2012. We'll have to wait for IDC and Gartner to come out with their May numbers.
Feeling confident about this?
I am feeling not confident at all that this is going to be true. Because what were they, 5%?
It was about 5%.
Yeah.
At least the last time we talked
They're
about
doing
it.
well in China. They're 7%
Well, the
China.
day's not up.
I meant in China, of course.
Right, 7%.
Yeah, you
It's
still
10%
got a
off.
ways to go.
Yeah, no, it's
We still have several hours until the end of the day. I mean, things could change pretty
It's not
quick, Tom.
over till it's over.
That's right.
Right?
Get out there and buy some Windows phones.
Make Tom proud. Next email from Kai Fuller writes in, I think it's worth pointing out that people are used to the desktop, just aren't old school power users. It's not just people being cranky geeks. In the corporate world, think Think of all the otherwise not computer or smartphone or tablet using workers who know the desktop interface exclusively for how they use it at work. Microsoft's idea of thinking that people are used to these types of devices on their phones and tablets is extremely youth and consumer centric. I can't imagine trying to train a bunch of folks in a corporation how to do their job in the Windows 8 transition. I don't see this being popular among large companies. Totally agree with that.
Thanks, Kai. Us cold, cranky geeks are happy you're sticking up for us and other people. I got a lot of folks who are like, Tom, all you have to do is X to get around the frustrations you expressed in yesterday's evaluation of Windows 8. And they were all right. But the point I was trying to make is I, as someone who really has not wanted to change the way I use Windows since Windows 95, granted, I'm irrational, but I'm not unrepresentative of lots of other people who are like going to be throwing their arms up if they get Windows 8. Mm-hmm. Like, what is this? How do I use this?
I don't see the big deal. It runs putty. What else do you need to run?
How do you get to putty?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Windows key and then type putty.
Windows key and type putty is actually the correct answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing here. Alt F2.
Right.
Control Alt T.
Get off my lawn. Okay, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Don't forget to submit stories in our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. It is a place to go to let us know what kinds of things you would like us to talk about on every show. We look at that. We look at our feeds and we look at Techmeme and everything, but this is essential to helping us figure out, well, what is it that you guys are really into? There's only 7,000 of you in there, though. So the more that join, the more helpful it gets. So get in there and do some voting, technewstoday.reddit.com. Also, don't forget best of submissions. If you like something during the week, not just today's show, but any of the shows, anytime, submit it to our email address, tnt@twit.tv, with the subject line best of, so Jason can put together a really good clip show and we can all lazily not work at the end of the year. Appreciate that. What's coming up on Hack 5 this week?
We're going into encryption. We're talking about ciphers and algorithms, how the SSH key architecture works, and what shared secrets and symmetric and asymmetric algorithms are, streams and block ciphers. It's good stuff. We're learning.
Your show is a cipher.
Yeah, well,
literally.
if you watch it, it won't be.
It won't be anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Good point. All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Let's give ourselves a hug.
Yay!
I don't know. It's like round of applause is so self-congratulatory.
It's better than hugging each other.
Actually, let's give you a hug. Thank you, audience. We couldn't do it without you. You are what has kept us around for 2 years, and we hope to be here for many more. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. Email us TNT@twit.tv and call us 260-TNT-SHOW. Andy Anako joins us Monday. We'll see you then.